Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of NEWS2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast, the discussion on the salaries of government employees, especially those who are high up in the executive branch, are not over yet. A couple of months after the 11 cabinet members who were given pay raises were confirmed, the issue of transparency on who gets much money rises up again. NEWS2's April Knight has details.
The spotlight is on government official salaries again today. The offices of the governor and lieutenant governor released their records to the Daily News months after the initial request, divulging salary information to the public. From the governor himself, who earns $150,000 a year, down to a cashier 2 position earning a little more than $20,000 a year, the salaries of about 230 positions within these two offices alone were disclosed. The salary information reveals that some employees within the governor's office earn more money than the 11 disputed cabinet members whose nominations were held up for months because of proposed pay increases and whose salaries were eventually capped at $105,000. Some of the governor's top aides are earning salaries that are higher. The governor's chief of staff, Randy Knight, for instance, earns $120,000 a year. His deputy, Rochelle Cornero, earns $112,500 a year. Policy advisor Simon Jones Hendrickson earns $125,000, the same amount of money earned by Lieutenant Governor Osbert Potter. Chief Legal Counsel Emil Henderson earns $123,000. In the middle of scrutiny of salary levels in his administration, the governor has emphasized in the past that his office's expenditures, including salaries, are within budget appropriations. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Under the VI Code, any citizen can review public records and make copies of such records unless they are specifically protected by law as secret and confidential. In other news, Senator Sen Francis Jr. is in support, he says, of Acting Attorney General Claude Walker's actions to gain financial records from the government employees' retirement system. Francis says the GERS's refusal to provide the records is indicative of the agency's lack of transparency and accountability. Francis believes the Attorney General's request is particularly relevant in light of the GERS board's recent decision to pay over $750,000 to Carambola. GERS payment has violated the public's trust, he said. Francis says the Attorney General has every right to request the agency's financial information. Turn our attention to crime reports. Lots of police reports came in over the weekend, and a significant amount dealt with violent crime, including several incidents of homicide. One drive-by shooting on St. Thomas resulted in one death. On St. Croix, 3 incidents that resulted in death or injury. NEWS2's April Knight has more.
The territory was again rocked by multiple incidents of homicide over the weekend. On St. Thomas, in the vicinity of the Hala Hala nightclub, 1 woman and 2 men were fired upon in a drive-by shooting. One of the men sustained gunshot injuries. The woman was killed. Meanwhile, on St. Croix, 3 incidents of violent crime. On Friday, 20-year-old Kimoy Lynch was found dead at Haypenny Beach. Officers responded to reports of gunfire and found Lynch laying lifeless off the beach. And then on Saturday, around 4 a.m., 2 men were shot in a St. Peter's Rest in the parking lot of the Penthouse Rooftop nightclub, after what police called a peaceful musical event. A 27-year-old victim was shot in the thigh and driven to Juan Louis Hospital. The second victim, 25-year-old Shaydon Beezer, was not as lucky. Elena Christian teacher Steve Bullock remembers Beezer, who was his student in high school.
He wasn't involved in any issues like, getting suspended for anything. None of that. He was quite quiet. He was quiet too, on the reserve side.
But the bloodbath didn't end there. On Sunday at 3:45 in the morning, officers responded to a report of a shooting incident that occurred at the Corner Pocket nightclub. The victim, a 30-year-old male, sustained a gunshot wound after someone stuck a gun into his back and demanded that he turn over his personal belongings and cash. The victim was taken to Juan Louis Hospital. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Investigations are ongoing in these incidents. Anyone with information on any of these crimes, you're urged to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or call 911. Meanwhile, on Saturday, October 24th at 3:11 p.m., Andrea Emmanuel Stout, 30, of West End Tortola, was arrested by the Customs and Border Patrol unit in St. John, traveling from the BVI to USVI, and is facing fugitive of justice charges. Stout was arrested in pursuant of an arrest warrant issued by the 18th Judicial Circuit of the state of Florida to previous charges of grand theft motor vehicle that occurred on June 28, 2015. Stout's bail is set at $175,000. The vigilance of officers from U.S. Customs and Border Protection resulted in Stout's arrest. The following day, October 25th, CBP officers identified another individual at Cyril E. King Airport on St. Thomas. Mr. Richard Morales Aponte, 30, U.S. citizen and resident of Wellington, Florida, attempted to board a flight bound to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Officers found he had full extradition warrant out of the city of Yonkers Police Department in New York for dangerous drugs charges. After confirming the warrant and coordinating with Homeland Security and the VIPD, his custody was turned over to the VIPD for extradition. Authorities in Puerto Rico have charged 25 people with defrauding the National Guard through a recruiting program that awarded bonuses for referrals. U.S. Attorney Rosa Emilia Rodriguez says the suspects are accused of claiming bonuses ranging from $500 to $8,500 that they had not earned from 2007 to 2011. The suspects are accused of fraudulently obtaining bonuses and sometimes providing a kickback in exchange. The charges, including wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, at least 15 of the defendants are still members of the Puerto Rico National Guard. We'll turn our attention overseas. A deadly quake strikes Southeast Asia. Paulo Sandoval reports.
The desperate search for survivors seems constant in South Central Asia. Crews are combing through rubble, hoping to find any signs of life after a powerful earthquake shook parts of war-ravaged Afghanistan and Pakistan. Among the dead, 12 teenage schoolgirls killed in a stampede while trying to evacuate their school as the earth shook. The U.S. Geological Survey reports shockwaves from the estimated 7.5 magnitude quake were felt hundreds of miles away in northern India. American officials stationed in the region report they are unaware if U.S. citizens are among the dead, injured, or missing. The White House adding the U.S. is ready to provide much-needed help.
There are a number of pre-positioned emergency shelter and relief supply kits in warehouses throughout Afghanistan. And in Pakistan, USAID has existing partners who are ready to respond.
Concerns are now emerging about the potential for landslides in the mountainous regions. Afghanistan was hit hard, but officials say much of the death and devastation is being reported in Pakistan. With a large number of missing in both countries, the casualty count is likely to rise. I'm Paulo Sandoval reporting.
And keeping our eye on the economy, here's a look at the New York Stock Exchange with our Stock Market Watch. As we can see there, the Dow down 23, NASDAQ up 2, S&P 500 also down at 3. Coming up on NEWS2, who is the St. Croix Teacher of the Year? An announcement was made. Plus, BVI USVI Celebration Friendship, highlights from that. Plus, there were pirates, ballerinas, kissers, and more at this Howling Good Time event. Highlights from Oktoberfest coming up next. Welcome back. Well, just a reminder, on St. Croix, classes will be dismissed at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th at all elementary schools, and at 1 p.m. on Thursday, October 29th at all secondary schools, in order to accommodate job-related professional development training for teachers. 17 St. Croix public school teachers were applauded by their peers, school administrators, as well as the Insular Superintendent's Office for being chosen as their respective schools' Teacher of the Year during the district's 2015 Teacher of the Year Awards ceremony, which was held on Saturday at Government House Ballroom in Christiansted. But at the top of the class, Monique Marie Mora, named St. Croix District 2015 Teacher of the Year, was a highlight. Mora was selected out of 6 finalists. She's a 27-year employee of the Department of Education. She is a special education teacher and modified instruction department chair at John H. Woodson Junior High School. Mora said for many of her students, they have to teach more than communication, but life skills, and she is indeed appreciative. Commissioner Vivian Ebbison Flood of the Department of Human Services welcomes from the states and territories all participants, presenters, and support staff of Region 2 Head Start Association to the VI for its annual Professional Development and Training Conference with the theme 50 Years of Excellence, Our Commitment Continues. That's being held at the Frenchman's Reef, and it kicked off this evening. It's going on until the 29th. It's presented by the Department of Human Services Office of Preschool Services and the Office of Child Care and Regulatory Services. Well, the annual USVI BVI Friendship Day weekend celebration was held on Saturday, October 23rd. Leaders of the 2 territories gathered to celebrate the ties that bind the people of the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands together. On Saturday, a delegation from the USVI headed to the BVI as the leaders of the 2 territories gathered to celebrate the ties during the 42nd anniversary of BVI USVI Friendship.
This year we're celebrating the greater Virgin Islands, the identity and the ingenuity of our people. The unique friendship that is shared between the BVI and the USVI captures so many factors that contribute to that tight-knit community that we call the Virgin Islands.
The celebration, which alternates between the USVI and the BVI each year, affords the opportunity to gather in a more relaxed social setting.
My mother's mother, my grandmother, is the last of 16 children, the last 3 born on St. Thomas, but from the island of Jos van Dyke.
The relationship between the BVI and the USVI is a perfect example for the rest of the world to see how 2 countries, 2 peoples, united, can live under 2 different flags, 2 different political traditions, but have maintained that special relationship.
Governor Kenneth Mapp has promised to continue the efforts to waive visa restrictions for people from the British Virgin Islands and other Caribbean countries.
In the U.S. Congress, the Virgin Islands is pursuing legislation and law that gives us in the Virgin Islands and the people in the Caribbean sort of an exemption which we call the visa program that will allow us to move freely between our islands without having the formality of getting visas and all of the formal issues of entering our ports and harbors. We do have some minor differences in our trade policies and our government, but on our local level, those are issues that we can work through and make sure that our national government understand that these differences have to be dealt with in the context that we are relatives.
BVI flags were flown here in the VI at many government agencies in recognition, and lots of USVI senators were in attendance. Talks of a visa waiver were first raised in 2013 by then U.S. Governor John DeYoung. In attendance was also Premier and Minister of Finance, Honorable Orlando Smith, who said it was in 1972 that Governor Melvin Evans of the USVI and the British government of Tortola proclaimed Virgin Islands Friendship Day, with the BVI hosting the very first celebration. Rotarians around the world are celebrating World Polio Day, and on St. Thomas, local Rotary clubs did their part. Local Rotary clubs held a fundraiser dinner on Saturday to help end the preventable disease. More than 100 attendees, including government officials and community leaders, heard more about the illness. They viewed a film on medical progress made on the treatment of the illness over the years and what still needs to be done to eradicate it completely. Well, there were spooky, cute, and funny costumes, all worn by furry friends. Barktoberfest was held at the Humane Care Campus. It's an annual fundraiser for the St. Thomas Humane Society. Besides all the cute pet contests for Funny's costume, Best Pet Owner combo costume, and Best Kisser, There was a parade of adorable pets up for adoption. Many vendors were on hand to encourage animal care. And of course, the No Flea Boutique was open with great deals, food and entertainment for both pets and pet owners. Now, in the end, right there, Yorkies Sophie and Reese won as the Pirate Family, and Olivia won the kissing contest. Great turnout there. Well, the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency held one of its biggest events over the weekend. The All Hazards Expo 2015 was held on St. John Friday, October 23rd, and on St. Croix on Saturday, October 24th. The event showcased the various government agencies and how they respond to emergencies. They also aim to equip attendees with knowledge and some actual tools to prepare for any disasters.
Rain didn't stop anything. Maybe a few people weren't able to make it up, but I'm telling you, it's a great day here at the park. We had an extrication by EMS in conjunction with St. Croix Rescue. BIPD that's doing a demonstration with their dogs. We have first responders that are trained, ready to respond in the case of a significant event. And we're going to try our very best to make it even bigger next year.
Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.